Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another installment of Not That You Asked, where me, your host, Kai, talks about anything and everything that no one asked me to talk about. And today we have the Ashes in the building, Ashley and other Ashley.
Whoop, whoop, hello.
Whoop, whoop, hello. Quick side message for all exclusive content. Make sure that you are following my new Instagram, KY_WHY_Kai. Yeah, so if you want behind the scenes of this episode and video look at it, make sure that you are following me there. But anyways, into the episode. So today we have a new topic at hand, and it came from a post that I saw about 2 weeks ago. Some guy kind of just posed a question about your feelings aren't valid, and we kind of got into this a little bit, and then technical difficulties happened and we had to start again. But basically his post was just kind of talking about, like, if people's feelings are really valid or invalid, or have we come up with this concept ourselves, just to kind of prove to ourselves that people's emotions are valid or not. Like, who are we to say that, kind of to say if they should be valued or not valued. So that's basically kind of like the sum of the Instagram post, but I'll make sure to somehow leave a link or something so you all can see the post. But yeah, I'll give you guys a chance to talk about it.
Hey, it's Kai, briefly interrupting this podcast episode to tell you that if you would like to see the post that we are discussing in this episode, make sure you head over to Your Diagnonsense on Instagram. Your Diagnonsense, spelled YOURDIAGNONSENS. It's a November 17th post, and you'll definitely see it. So let's get back into this conversation.
Okay, so this post, I don't agree with it. I have a background in social work, and so talking about feelings, making or letting people know their feelings are very real and that they should be treated as real experiences. That's kind of like, that's what I did. Like, that's what I do. That's just who I am. And so it's odd to just read this post when it's just saying your feelings are important, but they're not valid, meaning like they're not logical or like based in reality, but you really feel them. Right? Like, so how are they not based in reality? And it's funny because we're using all of these, like, all this terminology, like all this logistical terminology to like describe emotions, to describe feelings. So it just seems a little contradictory. Like, your feelings are not real, and yet we have real words to describe something that's not real. That's weird. So that's my standpoint on it. This conversation is going to be really interesting, and just, yes. I don't agree.
Quick memo though, because I think I said the title wrong of the post. It says your feelings aren't valid, really quick, because I feel like I said are valid. So yeah, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, they said your feelings are valid. I agree with you. I feel like he's definitely, with some of the way that he words things, this is a he, right? Yeah. Or they. The way that they word things is definitely like, he's saying that the feelings are important, but they're not valid, kind of just takes away from it. But then at the same time, when he's saying like they're not the truths that everyone else should live by and validate, but saying that it's a truth is something that's saying like, okay, yeah, your feeling is valid, right? It's a thing that you should definitely take into consideration, but it's not something that you should like put onto other people. It's not everyone else's responsibility to really validate those feelings as much as you feel them. Mm-hmm. And for you to like go too deep into it where you're making it your like the basis of your reality is not okay. Like, don't go too deep. Okay, let me not use the word too deep, but made a note on it too.
He said, that you can go if you start going.
I know. I was saying, so I said like making our feelings into this big deal lets us live in a reality that is clouded by these things being our feelings. And it doesn't allow you to just be in the present because you're constantly like feeding into this thought process of, okay, like what's going on with me and why. Obviously, we have to go through that process, but like how far and how long are we going to be doing that for? You know?
I still don't agree with
really. You know what's weird though, because a part of me, I kind of hear where he's coming from. Well, I don't know if it's he. I think it's a guy, yeah. But it's like certain parts of it, because like he even said, so I'm gonna like read this part. Hold on. So in the post, it says like we have to understand that our feelings are triggered by external responsive experience, they're external as a response to our experience. They don't need to be evaluated or valid in order to honor them and appreciate them. But you have to also like kind of understand how to tolerate and cope and understand these feelings. Mm-hmm. So I guess in that sense, I see where he's coming from. Like, your feelings are only posed upon because of something that you went through. So like quick example. So you mentioned social work, and I took like, I don't know what that class was called, but she was a social worker. I forgot what it was because it was elective and it was brief, but it was a good time. But she was just saying like how, she worked with this lady, and for the longest, she couldn't understand why she didn't like her. Like she couldn't understand why this lady was like annoying to her, or like just, she didn't like it. And she had to like really take time and like look in herself kind of. And she found like her emotions for this lady was only triggered because she had someone close to her who kind of acted like this lady that, kind of did her wrong or whatever, so to speak. So she was like, pushing the emotions towards, she had the person that she actually knew to this lady that she didn't really get the chance to even converse with. She kind of just watched the lady's actions, put it to the person she did know. And that's how she threw her emotions that, kind of reflected how she would interact towards this person. And then she was like, she had to take time to like, I guess, like you said, cope, like the person said, like cope with that emotion that she had towards that other feeling to be able to deal with the lady. And she became friends with the lady afterwards when she was able to realize like that emotion, where it stemmed from, cope with it or tolerate, or how to maneuver with that emotion that she had for that other person, and being able to separate it from the reality of this other lady that she knew.
This is called countertransference in social work. So it's when your social worker has feelings and they project them onto you. So you as a client, they remind you of like an uncle, an aunt, a family friend, a friend of a friend, and they only see you as this person. They turn you like into an archetype. Again, this is a very real thing. We turn people into archetypes all the time. And this is what I'm saying about this post. I understand not projecting. Projection is like an ego defense mechanism, right? When your ego is having a hard time dealing with emotions, it likes to put those emotions on other people, to push them on other people so that they seem realer, so the other person can process them. You can vicariously process them to the other person, right? That's a really unhealthy way of dealing with your feelings. Other people are not responsible for your feelings. However, again, feelings are very real. You feel them in your body. An emotion is a feeling state, right? It's a mental, as in your prefrontal cortex. You think about it, right? It happens up here in your brain, and it's also happening inside of your body. So again, I find this conversation to be hilarious that we're saying that really your emotions are invalid, but they really happen to you. We're also emotional beings. I don't understand how something that's very real could not be important, or like,
I don't think that's what the person is saying. They're kind of saying like it's more so like your feelings about people's feelings being valid or invalid aren't valid, because people try to put on this idea that when you have your own feelings, that they like, if they hear it and they don't think it's valid, it's like that emotion's invalid. Like, why would you feel that way? And it's like, you don't know what that person's going through. And at the end of the day, they're human. They have the right to feel how they feel. That's something we just go through with everyday life with people. If someone's mad at you but their reason for being mad at you don't understand, it's valid to them. You might not think it's valid because it's happened to you and you didn't get that mad, but it's valid. I think that's more so that's what I came up with, that this person was really talking about, like this idea that we have that, people's feelings are valid or invalid. Like, who are we to even come up with that idea? It's kind of like a right or wrong. Like, you're trying to say like, how you feel is wrong. How that's what I kind of like correlate that to, the valid invalid argument.
But this is what I'm saying. I feel like, how do I put this into terms? The fact, and this is what I'm saying, it feels contradicting with the words that he's saying, because he's telling us like the emotions are important. Don't think that they're not important, right? They still matter, but like disassociate from the fact that your feelings need to, how do I say this? Like, reflect how other people should react towards you, or how you should react. Definitely like analyze what they are, cope with them and everything. But don't make permanent decisions based off of temporary feelings kind of thing. I think that's where he's coming from.
I don't know. I'm still on the fence about it. So if we read some of the posts, right? Understand that feelings are constantly changing, especially when it comes to relationships, socializing, love, and sex. We have to understand that our feelings are triggered by the external as a responsive experience. They don't need to be evaluated or valid in order to honor and appreciate them. That's contradictory. You're telling me that my feelings are not valid, as in they're not logical or sound, and yet I'm not supposed to. I don't know. Like it's not adding up for me.
But then I think he also
has
this
adding up
idea that like, so like in this thing, he says like the idea of a valid emotion suggests the presence of an invalid one. Like if there's no wrong, there's not a, like without a right, there's no wrong kind of. So like, I think just the concept, like think about it. Like, I think your emotion should just be emotion. Why is it like you need it to be validated? Or like, why do you need it for people to say that's invalid? Just the idea that we have this perception that your emotion is valid or invalid. You shouldn't even have to think that. You should just be like, these are my emotions. Here I am. You know what I mean?
He definitely mentioned that.
He says these are ideas created in response to cultural and relational context. Humans are social beings. So your emotions being validated by other people is also another psychological term, psychological phenomenon called like mirroring. When people mirror your emotions, it means that you're in attunement with each other, right? You're looking for someone to say, I felt what you felt before. That means that this is a feeling that other people feel. It makes me feel more human to know that I'm not the only person who feels angry sometimes, who feels sad sometimes, who feels joy sometimes. So again, like that to me is like, it's like not adding up. It's contradictory. You're saying that like emotions, you should not be experiencing your emotions like in relation to other people, but then emotions are also experienced in relation to other people. Like what?
you know, also though, because I feel like he mentioned like, I guess like family, like your culture, how like people, so we're just gonna, because I'm Black, I'm just gonna say Black people. So there's this idea, you know, like Black men, they don't know really how to deal with their feelings. So then they suppress it. So then they're asking themselves like, are my feelings valid or are not valid? So I think in this, like, he's like saying like, we come up with these ideas of whether our emotions are valid or invalid because culturally, you know, you don't have people feeling at all. It's like kind of, you know, they're numb. They show no emotion. So how do they even know that what they're feeling is an emotion? That's just in my head. I think that's where he collides.
It's all over the place. It's all over the place. We say emotions are valid because we grew up feeling as if we were invalid. We're not supposed to be emotional beings, right? Like we're not supposed to acknowledge our emotions at all, right? We're not supposed to evaluate them, right? Not supposed to give them any weight. But yet,
it's crazy because like even like when I'm reading into his comment right here, so what he says on the post, he says sometimes we shouldn't even validate our feelings. All feelings are very important. You don't have to work on understanding every little thing you feel. Yeah. But if your relationships are unsatisfying, if your life is unsatisfying, there is meaning there for you to explore that goes way beyond the evaluative reflex of labeling an emotion invalid. Can we break that down real quick?
The post was all over the place. I'm not going to say that the post wasn't all over the place. The post was all over the place. Again, I'll leave the link. Follow my Instagram, and I'll leave under the video version of this. I'll leave down where you can find the post. But I think it was all over the place. But I do think like I can see I'm just guessing. I can see kind of like where it was trying to go or where it was going. But I definitely think it could have been written a little better or shaped to better.
Definitely.
The argument in this post is completely invalid. The logic it rests on is so rocky. Like it's super contradictory. Sometimes we should even validate our feelings. Okay, great. All feelings are very important. What are you talking about? Then you just told me my feelings are not valid.
Validate. So I feel like that's the real connection that he's trying to make here is the fact that the world or everyone around you does not have to validate these emotions. And you yourself, as important as your feelings are, when you validate them, again, like, don't make them the basis of this situation. Like, process them, but then let them go because they are temporary things.
Question. How do you know something is real unless other people also consider this thing to be real?
If you're feeling it, then it's real.
You gotta validate it.
It's like if
right. And when we say validate, we mean justify, we mean defend, right? Something is not real until other people can see it. Other people know that it exists. It's when we're talking about like delusions, right? People who are schizophrenic have delusions. For some very odd reason, those are not real to us. Why? Because we can't see it. We can't validate that your delusions are actually existing in reality. And yet your feelings are very important. And the world does not have to validate your experience. And yet these things are real to you. So I just don't understand what he's particularly like getting at.
Just have the word valid and invalid.
That's my issue.
And I think also the issue was that the post wasn't posed as a question mark or like, like, it was more so like kind of like a blatant statement. Like, I'm telling you this. I think that's where it kind of went wrong a little bit. Just because if it was questioned, it would have left more room for understanding, I think.
Let's keep breaking it down. You don't have to work on understanding everything you feel. That's weird. But your feelings are important, right?
Right, exactly. And hold on. And he even says, but if your life or your relationships are unsatisfying, it goes way beyond the evaluative reflex. How am I supposed to understand if I don't evaluate?
I don't even know. Wait, what's slide are you guys on?
No, it's not a slide. It's just comment.
It's the comment beneath, like the caption beneath the post.
Oh, okay, yeah.
My comment.
This is all over the place for me. And it just, again, if your relationships are unsatisfying, if your life is unsatisfying, then you need to explore your emotions beyond evaluation. I feel like what's happening for me in this is I'm thinking of this from a philosophical standpoint. If we're talking about validity of arguments and evaluation in arguments, we're not talking about psychology anymore.
What are we speaking of?
We're talking about etymology, right? What do these words mean? And in what relationship do they have to the words that he's describing? That's what's happening for me. I'm like, you have taken me out of the context of psychology. That's why I'm getting frustrated, because I'm just like, this entire argument is resting on like a very rocky foundation of logic. When you evaluate something, you label it as good or bad. You give it value, right? I don't think when people feel things, they're like, oh, this is a good feeling, this is a bad feeling. I think that in the context of like he was saying, like in society and like in your culture and in like your relationships, there are some things that people think are good and some feelings that people think are bad. And so that makes a lot of sense. But if we're talking like culturally, the feelings are already evaluated for you. Like happiness is already a good emotion, right? So if you're unhappy, then that's already a bad emotion because culturally speaking, that's considered a bad emotion. So it's just like, you have to go beyond that, but also don't validate your feelings. Like, what do you mean? Like, don't think about the feelings. Like, do not use logic to understand where they're coming from or why you have them. And then they're very important at the same time.
Yeah, I think in the reality sense, though, I don't know, it just poofed in my head. Like when he was just talking about like the reality, like don't let your emotions show I don't know, something about like it coinciding with your reality. I guess in like the sense of like if someone's like they have almost everything, but then they're sad and they're like, why? Or like versus someone who may not have as much and they're happy and they're like, why am I so this happy if I only have this? I guess in comparison to the two, like don't do that basically. Don't try to mix your feelings with what you have or your reality of your life. If you're happy, you're just happy and let that be. You could be living on the street happy. Don't let, because you're living on the street, take you away from like that feeling of happiness. That's where I get the reality part from. Still the valid and invalids. We're still working through that part, but I think we're getting there. Kind of.
Learn how to identify the responsive feelings that get in your way and give yourself unending opportunities to prove yourself wrong.
Where show me that line.
Learn how to identify the responsive feelings that get in your way and give yourself unending opportunities to prove yourself wrong. But we've got to go beyond the evaluative reflex of labeling emotion valid. How does that make any sense? Like, How does that make any sense?
And he's literally telling you to make it invalid by saying to prove yourself wrong.
I don't know. And I'm not behind him on this one. This is the last slide. This is giving me a philosophy class. This is what this is giving me. Okay.
This is why I felt like it was a good discussion to have, because so originally how I saw this post, Amber Riley had like posted it up on her story, and it was just like, what you guys think? And I was like, boom, this would be a great topic to like see where people's heads are at, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's confusing.
Yeah, and also work on learning how to tolerate, cope with, and soothe uncomfortable feelings without that calm being dependent upon someone else's ability to validate or understand your internal emotional experience. Again, when we're talking about mirroring, you do not want to go through terrible things in your life and learn that you are the only person that's dealing with it. You do not want to have people. You do not want to get hit by a bus and you're feeling depressed because you don't have legs anymore. You do not want to be the only person in the world who's ever experienced that before. It will make you feel alienated and alone and isolated. And like, that's not a good thing. And I don't think that you need to depend on people to like experience the same things as you, but feeling like you're not alone is a real human thing. Like loneliness kills you. Right? Like people die of broken hearts because they're alone all the time. People who live alone, older people who live alone, they die quicker than people who like have family around them or friends around them. So there's that one part of that I think is weird, right? Like I don't think other people actually I don't think you should depend on people for anything. Like just generally speaking, all your relationships should be interdependent, right? Both of your needs should be getting met, and there should be no, like it shouldn't be 80-20 or 50-50 even. It should just be 100-100%. You're both giving your all the time, and it should be the best of you that's coming forward. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to be around people who literally don't understand anything I've ever gone to before, right? Like you grew up super wealthy and like your family, as rich people say, where did you summer when you were a kid? I went to my house after school. I went to my grandma's house where I live, and we just stayed at home and watched TV all day, right?
And I was pretty hyped that I got the summer on.
You don't understand my experience, right? That sounds weird to you. That sounds bad to you, right? And so I don't think that you need other people necessarily like tell you that that's a good or a bad thing. But if you feel something in regards to that, right, you need to change your relationships. You want to be around people maybe you've experienced similar things that'll make you feel a little bit like you exist, right? We all want to be seen. We want to like feel like we belong here, right? So I don't agree with that.
Like, don't just rely on the people that are just around you. You can definitely go and outsource and seek other relationships. So don't rely on one specific someone. Just reach out to people who can validate your emotions as well.
And also, let's talk about the learning to tolerate, cope, and soothe feelings. This is why I don't like psychology. It apologizes absolutely everything. What this idea rests on is this idea that you have feelings that are uncomfortable, right? Maybe you don't like them for some reason. You don't like feeling them. Maybe they like when you get angry, right? Your blood pressure rises. That must be very uncomfortable. I mean, you can't really feel it per se, but I'm sure it's uncomfortable for your veins and like your other arteries and stuff, right? So it's uncomfortable. When you tolerate something, you allow it to exist.
Yeah.
Right? It's like if you have like a relative in your house and you don't want them there anymore, you just learn to like not be around them when they're in the house. Maybe you just always stay in your room, but your relatives still downstairs, you know, like they're going to be at the dinner table, right? But you can tolerate them for now, but wouldn't you much rather have them gone? Like if they're causing you harm, right? If they're not aiding and bettering you, wouldn't you much rather have them gone? Like, why would you want to tolerate something that's not comfortable for you?
I mean, but sometimes we're in situations where we can't exactly get out of that, you know? So then you have to learn how to cope with what it is that you're going through until you're able to move out of the situation.
Or I guess even like
feelings are always changing, so you can change your feelings, but they're not real, you know.
Like those emotions.
Don't use logic to do that, guys.
No, like even like, you know, some people, they have, you know, like hard time swallowing certain emotions. So like, okay, love, if you just in the sense of tolerable, I mean, who wants to just tolerate love anyway? But I guess like in the sense of like just learning to deal with those emotions that you find uncomfortable. but you have to feel them. Like, who wants to feel sadness? But at the end of the day, you have to feel it. It's like someone, if you're grieving, but then like you try your hardest to like not be sad. So you like do that thing where you just do everything else. You don't allow yourself to feel that.
Yeah.
Instead of like just taking it in and tolerating the fact that you're sad right now. You probably shouldn't be doing this, that, and the third. That's what I see to tolerate. But in other senses, I don't know. But that's why I had to use that example to like get it across.
I hear you.
Yeah. Like again, I feel like me and this person, our minds are linked right now, because right now I'm getting it. I'm hearing it. I mean, but I'm still saying like some points like probably could have been worded better, probably could have been said better, all that. But in some instances, I see the points that were supposed to be made or tried to be made here.
He's rejecting the idea that we're social beings, right? Like, we socialize with people, and that makes you feel like a real person. When you socialize with someone and you get along with them, they say, hey, you know, like, I see that you're feeling sad. Like, I understand that feeling. I felt sad before. I see you. I've experienced this before. I'm witnessing this with you. That makes you feel like a person.
Yeah, it does. But at the same time, it's like, why do we have this need for our feelings to be validated by these people, though?
Because we're social beings.
But it's like, if that's what I'm feeling, that's what I'm feeling. I should never have to care that. I mean, okay, you can go through it too, but I should never be like, you know what, they went through that too, so I should, this is the right emotion for me. Like, why should that ever be a thing? If I'm feeling it, and that should be it. I mean, it's cool that you recognize it, you see it, and maybe you could help me get through this emotion. But the fact that I'm going through it should just be enough for me. You know, like, why do we have this idea, like, in order for us to be like, okay, like, finally recognize that we're feeling something, why should it be like someone else has to say that they felt that too, or been through that too? Why?
I think it's because it's lonely to go through things by yourself. And you feel
that's an emotion too, loneliness. But why? Why should we ever feel lonely for feeling what we're feeling?
Because emotions are lonely. You experience them in your body, right? Like, these experiences you have, these situations, like he was saying, that your feelings are responsive. They're a response to something that's happened to you. So you have an external stimuli, and you have an internal response, which is like an emotion, feeling state. You experience this in your body alone, right? It's like, people could like telephone, right? You say something in someone's ear, and then by the time the message gets back to you, like, it's something new, right? Anyone can be in a situation and experience like two different things. Like, they can feel two different kinds of feelings, two different kinds of emotions, right? And I think, again, why people want to like be validated by other people, like to feel like their feelings are real, like they're normal, like they're not going crazy, right? It's because it's lonely. It's a lonely experience. Imagine you're the only person in your friend group and people are dying around you. Like, you're the only person experiencing grief. You're going to wonder, oh, I'm having these sleepless nights and I keep dreaming about the people who just passed away. Is anyone else feeling the same way? Anyone else going through the same thing? I feel alone. Do you want somebody else to say something like, hey, like, I see you. Like, I've been through this before. Like, you're not alone when you're going through this. Even though these feelings are inside of your body, I can carry some of the burden with you.
Yeah.
That's what I think is what it is. I think it's people want to not feel alone. I think people do not want to feel like they are the only people on this earth who experience some feelings. It's hard, right? And he says, you know, we're not robots, right?
Yeah.
So feel as much as you need to. And again, you shouldn't depend on anyone really for much of anything. But at the end of the day, we are social beings. Like, that's what I keep going back to. We're social beings. We socialize, we connect through socializing. We build relationships, families, friendships for this exact reason, right? Why would you want to spend your entire life alone? All these billions of people on the planet. Why would you not want to have like people in your corner, in your circle, who can witness what you're going through and also experience it with you and say, hey, like, that's a real feeling. That makes sense. And I'm here with you to experience that with you. And like, I've gone through the same thing, and like, you're not by yourself in this world.
But also, it's just not crazy that you're feeling this way. Like, it's okay for you to feel how you feel. But again, you're validating the feel.
But yeah, I think it's just a concept of like, yeah, like, we do need these people, and this is all that is true. All that is real. We need people to be there for us. But like, when you look at it just from like people, what if like, okay, we're all just like people, right? We're just humans, just living here. you know, and then we just all have like our own feelings. Boom. We're just a living life. Like, in no way, like everyone has their own feelings. Everyone should be able to feel what they feel comfortable to feel what they feel. And that should really be it. It's not saying that, you know, we do, it's like we understand the fact that we are social human beings. We need this. And like, but there's also the idea that we shouldn't have to, I guess, need it. I think because we're like, I don't know, it's like, so like for us, right? I think I just do better with examples. So we're just here. We're all humans. We're just all humans. I gone through something, you gone through something, you gone through something. We have the right to feel whatever we feel. I mean, yeah, it's great. We like, because we know each other, because whatever, you know, we do look for that sense of like, you know, I'm there for you. I'm, you know, you got like, you know, I support you. I'm there. I see you, whatever. At the end of the day, we're all humans. We all have feelings, and no one's feelings is less than the others. No one, you should never even have to feel like you need your feelings to be validated. It's kind of just like in the space that we in, and like as a people that we are, we do need it, especially now with like everything. We do need it, and it's like recognizing that fact, but the reality is we really shouldn't have to. I mean, but we've gotten to the point where now, you know, it does help us, but we should never even have to be able to like seek other people's whatever experiences too, to make sure that our feelings come with like some kind of like
I'm just thinking about, you know, people say things like representation matters, right? Like when we're like watching TV and it's like, well, little black kids, and just little black kids doing things on TV that are like healthy.
I love all things black. It just gets me excited. So go on.
I'm using an example, right? So this is what I keep thinking about. I think that when you see yourself and somebody else, and you see a mirror, and you look at someone and you see a mirror, you see a reflection of yourself, I think it makes you feel like you yourself are a valid thing. Like you are real. You yourself exist, and like what's happening to you is really happening, right? And it just further humanizes you, right? And like in the context of like representation, imagine you watch TV and you never ever saw anyone who looked like you ever. Are you real? Are you a real person? Are there really black people in the world if you never see them on TV? Because art and life mimic each other. They're a mirror to each other. I think people want to feel like they're looking at their own reflection. That's why they want to be validated. For sure. And it makes sense. You know, we're all humans. I hate that phrase, like we all bleed red. I don't know.
I don't really like that necessarily, but I see where you were going.
I don't know about that for all of us. But for the sake of this conversation, we're all humans. We all have the same organs. We all bleed red. And so I think we just want to like look out into like the human race and see other people who look like us, right? You don't want to feel like you're like the only person who like has this weird flaw. You know? But that's what I keep thinking about. Like representation matters. I want to look out into the world and see mirrors. I want to see reflections of myself and not just see like a blank stare. Like, what? That's crazy. You feel grief? I've never heard of that. Like, that's like, oh, like that's weird.
What's that? Never heard of that. How do you spell it? It's like what? But yeah, I see. It's like I see both mirrors here. Like
I get where you're coming from. Like what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Like you should not depend on people to mirror your emotions. But then again, if people cannot mirror your emotions, they're most likely sociopathic or psychopath. So I think you should really change your friend group. Okay, you should really stop tolerating these people.
For sure, but I don't know.
On a real note, okay? Like. But I definitely get where you're coming from. I don't think we should depend on people wholly for like emotional healing or like emotional nurturance. But at the same time, we're social beings. I think it's normal. I think it's normal to reach out. Yeah. That's how I feel about it. That's what I think about it. And feelings are valid. So
feelings are valid here. Don't say anything different.
Did we leave anything undiscussed? I feel like
we tapped on everything, and I think that's been a great episode. That is all for this kind of discussion. We've kind of talked about like all the different aspects of the post, and if you have anything you want to say, I'll leave a little question box on the podcast link. When you go to Spotify, you'll be able to see the question, and you guys can answer, and I'll just be asking you guys what's your thoughts on this discussion and how do you feel about it? So make sure that you go and do that. And share this podcast with all your friends because we need your support. You know, we're almost on February. It's Black History Month. Support us. We're Black. Thank you. I appreciate it. So yeah, we're gonna just close out. Any last remarks from the ashes? Any last remarks?
Well, from ashes we rise.
That was actually kind of fire. Again, before we go really quick though, I gotta shout my own self out. So make sure that you go and follow my Instagram and make sure that you're following my YouTube. If you didn't know, I have a YouTube channel. So make sure that you go and you follow that because I'm doing all things Christmas over there. And we also have a special mini series where I highlight people that more people should know more about. So make sure that you're headed over there and you like, comment, subscribe, and share. And yeah, that is all for this episode of Not That You Asked Me to Talk About Anything and Everything That No One Asked Me to Talk About. See y'all next time and bye.
Bye.